Hey guys, LevelCap here, and today we're going to be taking a look at Armored Kill as a whole. I've been playing the game for a while, having a lot of fun with the 4 new maps, and these maps just look gorgeous. I mean, take a look at this clip here where I'm driving the new ATV, and guess what I figured out? The ATV is not indestructible. When you crash it into a rock, it will explode. Now, I have not explored every crevice of Armored Kill, but I feel like I've gotten a pretty good feel for how it's going to play out. I've played a lot with being in maps with the AC-130, and that's what there is here. We're defending on this rush map, and the AC-130's coming down on us from above. They've got flares, but they're really not that hard to take down, especially on rush games with 64 players, which seems to be pretty popular. It just takes a few people with dedicated iglas to take one down. Anti-air tanks can take them down pretty easily in Conquest. Jets will take them down. Even I've taken one down with the transport helicopter. Now I've got to spend a bit of time talking about the AC-130 because it is one of the bigger game-changing things added to Battlefield. The new maps are great. I think they're beautiful looking. There's a lot of stuff to do in them. There's tons of vehicles, all that fun stuff that they promised. The AC-130, however, I will admit feels a little bit out of place. I don't think it's necessarily overpowered because it's very easy to take one out, as I just showed taking one out with the transport heli. I've taken one out with an anti-air tank. I've taken one out with iglas. There's a lot of ways to take them out. They're not indestructible. Usually the guys in them don't have good enough coordination with their flares. Both seats in the AC-130 can deploy flares, and if you switch off deploying them, it can make it harder to get locks with them, but definitely not impossible. You can sneak a missile shot in there, and there's just a lot of ways to take them down. So I don't think they're indestructible. It's just the fact that a lot of people don't focus on them or spawn with anti-air rockets to try and do something about them. Now, my problem with the AC-130 is that regardless of which side you're on, if you're on the receiving end or if you're in the actual thing doing the gunning, every time you die is completely unfun. Like if you're in the AC-130 and you're just getting locked on by tons of iglas and you blow up, you really feel helpless. You don't feel like you could have banked the plane and gotten out of there or flown more intelligently or not flown over. Like, you just feel helpless in some situations where you're like, well shit, there's 10 guys down there locking onto me with iglas. There's absolutely no way I can change my trajectory. I'm just gonna die. That's what's gonna happen in this situation. Now, alternatively, on the receiving end, when you're, say, defending on a rush and you get blown up by the AC-130, it's totally non-fun. There's not a lot of places you can hide. If you're going to get blown up by the AC-130, it's just running around. You could be in the middle of a firefight. You could be saving the MCOM, whatever. You just randomly explode by the AC-130. It's entirely different from basically every other situation in the game, where if there's a tank coming after you, you can hide behind something. If infantry are coming, you can try and hold them off, shoot them down. But with an AC-130, and you're defending an MCOM or defending against infantry and you just blow up randomly from the AC-130, it's really one of the more aggravating deaths in the game because you just feel absolutely helpless against it in some situations. Yes, you can respawn with an igla, but if you don't have one and the thing's circling above and nobody's shooting it down, you just feel completely exposed. You're basically just running around saying, God, I hope that AC-130 doesn't decide to shoot at me and instead shoots at my other teammates. That's basically your best defense against it, is just chance. I think the plane works a lot better on Conquest maps because people are less clustered together. You have a lot more tools at your disposal to take them down, like anti-air tanks, helicopters, jets, all that stuff. In Rush, people are very clustered, and especially on the attacking team. The fact that the attacking team gets the AC-130 in addition to like Amtraks and other armored vehicles, they really do have a huge advantage. What I do like about the AC-130 on Rush is that you can parachute out of it, making the defenders really have to be on their toes looking around them for parachuting in guys. This can often backfire where you just get shot down and end up losing a lot of tickets for your team, but it's still kind of a cool addition. I just kind of wish that the AC-130 maybe didn't have guns on it for the Rush mode. Now, aside from the AC-130, I think the rush modes are some of the better modes included in Armored Kill. Some people aren't liking them, but I think they actually work pretty well even with 64 players. That's one cool thing about Armored Kill, is all these maps tend to play really well with very high quantities of players. Sorry console guys, I know you don't exactly get to experience the 64 player servers, and I hope that DICE did a good job of balancing the maps on a smaller scale. Now, one aspect of Armored Kill that really wasn't advertised very much is the team deathmatch. Now, I play a bit of team deathmatch, especially for gun reviews, and just when I'm not really in the mood to play too team oriented, I just kind of want to run around and shoot at stuff, not really think too much, then I'll play some team deathmatch. And I have to say the team deathmatch maps are extremely fun. This is Albor's Mountain here. You play at the very top of the tallest peak. It's all snowy. There's a blizzard going on. It just looks really cool. There's a lot of neat little places you can get up into rocks and stuff and flank people. The maps play really well with larger quantities of players as well. So now you're not getting stuck on the 24 or 32 player team deathmatch maps. You can play 64 player or 48 player team deathmatch maps, and they still feel really balanced, and in fact they feel much more team oriented rather than people running around randomly. Both teams tend to spawn on the same sides of the map, and you can push up with friendlies and try and push across the map and flip the spawn locations. And this here is Armored Shield, and this is probably one of my new favorite team deathmatch maps because it kind of sticks you in this small town area of the larger Armored Shield map, which is much more open, so you'd think at first that would be really open and bad for TDM. Well, you're actually in a small city, and the environment's just very cool, and it's big enough to push across many different lanes. And with 64 players, you really do feel like you're just two armies of infantry clashing. And since the gun gameplay in Battlefield 3 is so good, it just is a lot of fun, and there's tons of stuff to explode in this map too. So playing as Engineer is really viable. You can really carve your own path through the map, take out buildings. All that kind of stuff is a lot of fun with both Engineer and even playing the support class and using your C4 to really just demolish buildings and walls. Now, I know I briefly mentioned this at the beginning of the video, but all four maps, Albor's Mountain, Armored Shield, Bondar Desert, and Death Valley, they all look absolutely great. That's been one thing that's been very consistent with Battlefield 3, is the art is just phenomenal, and the more recent maps from Close Quarters and Armored Kill, they just look great. DICE is definitely pushing the envelope, taking things to the next level on just the visual amazingness of this engine, of what it can do, what you can achieve with the sunsets in Bondar Desert, and just how large and open, and transitioning also in between different kinds of environments. So we're in Bondard now, and we're sort of in this little crossing over the highway from a little beach community into a much more deserty area of the map, just as in Operation Armored Shield, where there's areas where it's large open fields, and then it transitions into little river areas with towns and villages and all that kind of thing. They did a really great job of making the maps diverse enough so that you get a good variety of gameplay. Even if it is largely armor oriented, you can still get some good infantry gameplay in on every single map. Now, there's definitely people out there who don't like Armored Kill, and I can't say that I'm in love with every game mode. In fact, I think that Conquest is one of the most boring game modes in this new expansion. In fact, I think Conquest on Armored Kill plays a lot slower, and it's a lot more boring than Conquest on, say, Caspian Border or Operation Firestorm. Those maps are big, but they manage to focus the action well, and you can still play as infantry pretty well in certain areas of the map. I feel in Armored Kill, if you don't have a piece of armor, then you're screwed. There's just so much armor in these maps compared to the other maps that if you go infantry, you're just going to get run over by a tank, blown up by a tank, blown up by the AC-130, blown up by a helicopter. And although it can kind of feel like that in Operation Firestorm or Caspian Border or Gulf of Oman, compared to Armored Kill, it's much less extreme. So Armored Kill just takes that and makes it even more intense. So if you absolutely love running around in armor and that's all you're going to do, then Conquest might appeal to you, but it was still very slow. I played some very large and long ticket games on Conquest, and I ended up with just very few kills at the end. Not seeing a lot of action, or all the action I saw was very brief. It was either me killing them immediately or them killing me immediately. So if you fall into one of the critics of Armored Kill, let me give you guys a list of some of the maps that I've found to have the most fun on and feel are the best balanced. I really enjoy playing Rush on Bondar Desert and Death Valley on 64-player games. I think that's a lot of fun. Sometimes it can suck for the defending team, but more often than not, I have a lot of fun playing those maps. Now, if you're in the mood for TDM, Alborz Mountain and Operation Armored Shield provide a great environment for some serious infantry action, especially if you join a larger server of 48 or 64 players. As for tank supremacy, I think Operation Armored Shield and Bondar Desert are some of the best. Death Valley and Alborz Mountain are extremely hilly, very hard to get around with the tanks, especially because of their just terrible handling, where it just feels like their treads are made out of soap or something. You're just slipping and sliding all over the place. So the flatter maps, which are Armored Shield and Bondar Desert, tend to work a bit better with the tank gameplay. And tank superiority isn't bad, especially if you're playing with a friend. That's a big part of having fun on that map. Although one of the main issues with it is you don't seem to be able to spawn on any of your squad mates in tank superiority. I don't understand why this is a situation. It really goes against teamwork, and I'm assuming that it's a bug that DICE just overlooked, because I was playing with Dascro today and I would jump out of the tank to repair. I'd take a tank shot or something, die, he would survive, and I wouldn't be able to respawn on his tank. He'd have to drive all the way back to deployment to come get me. So that's a little bug. I'm giving DICE the benefit of the doubt and assuming that it's a bug and not a conscious decision to remove from the game. If you are a critic of Armored Kill, give the game another try on some of the maps that I suggested. I think they play out really well. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time. This is LevelCap, signing off.